Welcome into Rock Rants, everybody. My name is Smiggy, and as always, I am joined by my lovely co-host. I got it wrong again!
Wait, what? What happened?
We went over this last episode. Every time I do it, I point to a side, and I know for you, this is right, but for me, this is wrong. And I do it every this is okay. Hold on. Say your name so we can be nominated for an award first.
I'm Ryan.
Okay, because apparently to be nominated for awards, you have to introduce yourselves at the beginning of your episodes. Maybe that's a myth. I don't know. But also, before we get into the actual stupid, dumb, effing conversation, do you do the Wordle, or have you done the Wordle?
I have done the Wordle, but it's been years. I did when it first came around, but yeah, I don't do it anymore.
Fair.
What was the Wordle?
So I'm not even mad necessarily about whatever the word was today that I don't even remember. It's swoop, maybe? Sweet. I don't know. Either way. What I hate is similar to how I get this wrong every time on a 50-50 chance. I game the system with Wordle, and I, much like everybody else, they have like a favorite word to use as your first word. My word is ado, which A-D blank blank U. That's the blanks are an E and an I. In what order is the question? You know how many times I've gotten it right on the first try?
Is it I first?
I don't know. I don't know, Ryan. I don't know. But what we are here for, and I'm actually going to look this up while I'm saying this. Wait, I'm going to do it here. Did I do it? I get it right here. It's IE, and I'm going to get it wrong in the Wordle tomorrow. Anyway, welcome back to the show that's about rock albums and music and not about me being illiterate. Today, we have a special format of the show. It is somewhat of a battle of the bands style where, you know, the traditional one of us would pick one band, one of us would pick another one, and we just yell at each other why our band is better than the other. Instead, we decided that we are going to change that format up a little bit and take the same band, but take two different albums from it. So this one kind of fell right into my lap, and I'm actually going to stop myself right there because I realized I was about to do the intro that we're not going to do yet. So before we get into what band and what, again, YouTube viewers, hello, you see exactly what we're doing. But before we get into the band and the albums that we have chosen for today's episode, I believe, Ryan, you have some Grammy news for us.
You watch the Grammys?
I'll be honest, I don't really watch any award show because it's cool and is valid. A lot of them probably are. It feels just like a bunch of nepotism. Usually.
Yeah, I don't watch them either, but the rock and metal category seem to be getting more attention. So even though I don't watch the Grammys, I do like to see who wins in those categories, and then I complain about it afterwards. So I just want to run through the winners real fast because it seems like if we take our time on this spot, on this part of the news and things like that, we don't have enough time for our main event. So I'm running through. Best rock performance. The winner is Youngblood. I don't listen to Youngblood, and it's not because I haven't for any bad reason. I just haven't tried. So I'm gonna give him a shot. But some of the other nominations were Linkin Park, The Emptiness Machine. We've done that for an episode before. Turnstile and Hayley Williams. I guess Hayley Williams from Paramore did some solo stuff that I also haven't heard. Best rock song winner, Nine Inch Nails. Some of the other people nominated: Sleep Token, Hayley Williams again, Turnstile, and Youngblood. Best rock album, Turnstile. Other nominations: Deftones, who we also did an episode on. Haim, I guess is how you say it. I don't know. Never heard of them. Linkin Park and Youngblood. Best
Youngblood. This sounds like a rapper.
I know, it is definitely like a rapper name. Let's see here. Best metal performance. The nominations, we actually talked about this one a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Nominations were Turnstile, Dream Theater, Ghost, Sleep Token, and Spirit Box. I said if anyone except Spirit Box or Dream Theater wins, I'm not going to be happy. Turnstile won. And that's nothing against the band. They're fine. I listened to it, no big deal. I just think, personal opinion, yeah, Spirit Box or Dream Theater should have got that win. But something else about was cool. Spirit Box. Go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, I feel like we were both in agreement that Turnstile was the worst of the bunch. No,
I
can't remember. I'm trying to find my notes
in the
now.
Metal category, but I also don't think Sleep Token should fall under the metal category. So
you know what? That's fair. That's entirely fair. Carry on.
That's the only reason. Turnstile's fine. Everyone knows I like Sleep Token, but yeah, I just don't think it should be in that category. But last thing about the Grammys, Spirit Box performed at the Grammys, which normally when they do performances, they don't really do the rock and metal shows that often, but they even put it on TV and everything. And they did not go with one of their softer songs. They did Soft Spine, what they were nominated for, which is like all harsh vocals, really heavy. So I was just surprised to see the Grammys, they actually televised a little bit of metal. Yeah. So it was good. They did a good job. I think they should have won. That's just me though.
Oh yeah, I've been saying they need to bring more metal to the Super Bowl halftime show, but that's a conversation we don't need to get into. Dude, actually, we're not going to get into the conversation, but are you familiar with the nature of why people are so upset with Kid Rock being the Faith, Family, and Freedom headliner?
Yeah, because he had a song about like minors.
So I actually knew about this a long time ago. I'm by no means am I trying to be underground about Kid Rock being a pedophile, but I knew about this a while ago because I heard it on a podcast I listened to. Do you know where that song comes from?
I'm glad to say I don't.
Are you familiar with the children's movie starring Bill Murray called Osmosis Jones?
Yes.
And would you believe me if I told you that song is from Osmosis Jones?
Hold on. Like he wrote
that
it for
song,
the movie?
I see. Now that's where people are defending him because nobody knows who wrote it because maybe it was the creative writers at whatever studio fucking produced that movie. Maybe it was Kid Rock himself. The end of the story there is though that he still chose to okay it and perform it. So he's still way more than but that wasn't a children's movie about health.
Why?
Right.
That is just poor decisions on every single person involved.
That's one of those where it's like you got to think about how many like I get that when most people say this phrase, how many people did this get through to make it live? It's not always super accurate because, if you're like a social media manager or something, you come up with the tweet, you show it to one old white guy who says, yeah, I don't fucking care, just post it. And that's usually how that goes. But this one feels like it had to go through a few channels. People really had to make wrong decisions on it. So yeah, that's
wild.
However you feel.
Something I haven't thought about in a long time.
God, it's such a good movie, though. Such a good movie. Which is crazy because I obviously don't remember that being a part of it, but Osmosis Jones, great movie. Kid Rock, however you feel about the politics of it all, Kid Rock, piece of shit. Anyway. Again, why are we here today? Well, again, debating Battle of the Bands style. This kind of fell right into my lap, I'll be honest. So if I manage to butcher this debate, I have nothing to be shameful of other than myself, although I'm going against a man who used to educate people. Because when this idea was conceptualized, Ryan immediately came. I floated around the idea of picking a band that we both know for obvious reasons, so we can both have an album that we know enough about or are comfortable researching about. And as soon as I mentioned something like that, Ryan handed me a golden pheasant egg and said, my child, this will birth in, God, how long has it been since we came up with it? In a month and a half's time, and you will nurture it because we're doing Avenged Sevenfold. And I was like, that's crazy. I know a lot about this band. And he's like, the reason we're doing Avenged Sevenfold is because we have albums that we both think are shit. And that's true. So today, I will be taking the side of the Avenged Sevenfold album, Hail to the King. And Ryan, what will you be defending today?
I'll be defending one of their best albums they've ever made, The Stage.
Right. So now that we're done lying to the people, let me set the stage here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Stage.
Unintended. And I think that's my first blunder. I think I just blundered a rook. That's damn. Okay. +1. Anyway. We live in a time where all we want to be is at the center of the stage. We want to express to the world the depths of our soul and the boundless limits of our talents, only to become swept up in a cosmic wave of overcomplication rather than creating your own meaning. Such brilliant minds, such as Neil deGrasse Tyson, can speak in galactic-sized metaphors and scientific... Do I know how to write? Speak in galactic-sized metaphors. about how the universe is constructed. And that is an effort that will surely assist us in pushing forward into the future. However, what happens when you try and skip past the checkpoints that Father Time has placed for us? Well, Ryan, we become unraveled. We are inevitably crushed under the weight of our own lack of understanding and proper preparation, because it's important to understand and strive for what utopia you depict the world to be once we have a greater understanding of our creation, all things that Neil deGrasse Tyson and the stage explore. But we first must live in the moment of our direct mortal influences. We become a shepherd of our own desires and light fire to those beliefs. On moonlit nights and crimson days, through doing time being called a heretic, until the days come that you are coming home. Before we can explore the vast bounds of the stage and what it presents us, we must hail to whatever king is the master of our day-to-day reality. Ryan, I've been away, searching for a reason, another purpose to find. I've sailed the seas, fought my many demons. I've looked to gods in the skies. I've stood in hell, where many had to suffer. I stared the devil in the eyes. And all these moments have brought me to the grand conclusion and the reason why we are gathered here today. And that is, of course, to say that as a definitive piece of metal media, Hail to the King is an overall better album and better depiction of what the band Avenged Sevenfold is over the stage. Opening remarks.
Your Honor, objection. I don't know how to follow up to that because I prepared a PowerPoint presentation, but I don't have an opening like that. So instead, let's go right into a little bit about each album. Hail to the King is the 6th studio album released by Avenged Sevenfold and the first album not to feature contributions from Jimmy the Rev Sullivan, unless maybe they were working on things together beforehand. I don't know. I know the Rev is still credited, even in their newest album, Life is But a Dream, but without him physically being there with the band. This is the first and only album to feature, I'm probably going to say his last name wrong, Aaron Iljay on drums. Hail to the King released, which this shocked me when I saw it. Hail to the King released in 2013 to mostly positive reviews, averaging a 70 out of 100 on Metacritic. Followed up was The Stage, the 7th studio album released by Avenged Sevenfold and the first album to feature Brooks Wackerman on drums. The album was a surprise release. Also something I didn't know, they just dropped it out of nowhere in 2016 and debuted to generally positive critical reviews with a Metacritic score of 74 out of 100. If you caught what I said before, this is 74 out of 100. Hail to the King was 70. So I think we can go ahead and check one more box for The Stage.
Okay. Boy got numbers. Boy forgets. Other boy autistic. It loves data. So you have your fancy numbers. Yes, Metacritic, all of the people that I have time and time again shown speak purely out of the wrong end of their body for the most part. There's a lot of really good reviews out there that I do agree with, but we've seen on a number of occasions that sometimes people just have an axe to grind, a body to bury, whatever you want to use. So I say, don't let the people speak with their words or their written numbers. Let their wallets speak. What are they actually listening to? What are they spending their money on, Ryan? Easy. On one quick Google search, if I'm being honest. Well, The Stage, yes, did debut at number 4 on the Billboard Top 200 with its 76,000 units sold, 72,000 of those in pure sales. And its first week! That's impressive. That's a big number. You know what's a bigger number, Ryan, than 76,000? 170,000, which is what Hail to the King did in its first week. Not only that, by the time that it was pretty much no longer relevant to keep counting the sales, years and years after the album, or a year after, the chunk of when most of your sales for an album comes, right? The Stage, my personal least favorite album of my favorite band, sold roughly not even 150,000. 150,000. 6 digits. We'd love to see that in a paycheck. I'd love for that to be my salary. You know what I would like to be my salary more, Ryan, is the number 1 million with that big fancy M attached to it, which, if you're paying attention at home, is 7 times as many. 7. So, yes, check 1 in your vanity box for your Metacritic scores and IGN and whoever else you need. Money talks loudly. And in this, it spoke about 7 times more loudly.
So do you think that more sales means that it's better? So do you think that every album that has like more sales in the last year or so means that the music is better than some of the other things we've listened to? Because if I'm not mistaken, Sleep Token has sold quite a bit and has become very popular. But do you like Sleep Token more than, say, Bloodywood, Of Mice and Men, Poppy, perhaps? What say you? Does album sales really equate to better music?
What say I is, as you try to disrobe my straw man here and my argument, my logical fallacies that I'm trying to use on you at the moment, is to take the veil down. No. That big shiny number, as I just pointed towards your big shiny numbers and says those don't matter, my numbers matter more, that is certainly not the end all be all. However, cleverly, in your rebuttal of the argument, you use 2 different, 3 different, 4 different bands. This is album sales by the same band, where your expectation of what they're going to present you, it can vary from album to album, as we discuss all the time. It almost kind of should. You should expect your favorite band to keep pushing boundaries at a reasonable pace and limit. But do I think a internationally known band like Sleep Token is better than the Baby Metal album that we listened to? And I don't know the sales numbers for any of those, so maybe Baby Metal did sell better. I don't know. But in the world where it didn't, do I think that Sleep Token is better than Baby Metal? No, I don't. But those are 2 different bands, and you could get into the stylings, why your own personal preference, your own biases. I like Sleep Token more because they aren't always just pure metal, or I like Japanese metal more because of XYZ, whatever. We're talking about the same band here, where the fans, myself included, and I'm trying my hardest to take my own personal bias out of this, but I recall 2 pretty vivid memories in my brain. And if the ratings aren't going to count, and if the monetary value of the albums isn't going to count, why not an emotional testimony for both albums? Yes, okay. Positive and negative. Hail to the King came out in 2013, as you stated. In 2014, I started working at Starbucks. College job, whatever, very fun. But I was young and dumb, and I was working with a bunch of young and dumb people. So whenever I would go to work, I would just... usually the one manager I didn't like was working the drive-thru, and to get to the employee lot, you had to drive right by the drive-thru window. So I was a little asshole, and I would blast my music on my way to work, especially when I'm pulling into the employee lot. What was the number 1 song that sticks out in my head every time I think about what I was listening to? And a variety, of course. Not just metal, not just Avenged Sevenfold, not just any of that. It was Shepherd of Fire specifically. It's not like I was listening to City of Evil. It's not like I was listening to the self-titled album. It's not like I was listening to even Nightmare or whatever, which I think might actually be their 3rd most selling album. Anyway, I was listening specifically to Shepherd of Fire off of the album Hail to the King. Now, on the reverse end, I vividly remember going to a pool hall, billiards hall, whatever you want to call it, with a buddy back before COVID. It actually was probably like right when the stage came out. And we were there, and somebody put on, it actually might have even been me, the more I'm thinking about it, put on the namesake of the album, which, to pull down the veil again, I actually really like the song to the stage. I think that one's good. But somebody put it on, maybe it was even me. All I remember is about 4.5 minutes into that 35-minute song, I went and I paid the express fee to skip the song that I might have even put on. Your Honor.
Okay. Okay. No, sorry. You go ahead. You go ahead, and then I'll go.
That was it.
So first off, it's good memory. I have memories of Hail to the King as well because I was working at a formal wear place. We did like tuxedo rentals, and wedding season and especially prom season were always our busy time. And so I was like going to college, working prom season, that sort of thing. We always had the radio on. It was always local radio. It wasn't like satellite radio or anything. I cannot tell you how many times during that prom season I heard Hail to the King and Shepherd of Fire and This Means War. It seemed like every 30 minutes they were playing, and I could just hear him screaming Hail to the King. And my boss at the time, the owner of the store, for whatever reason, he would always say "Hail to the cheese." I don't know why, but that's what it makes me think of when I hear that song now. Is him screaming "Hail to the cheese." Yeah, but man, I think part of it was those songs got overplayed, and even though I'm saying that, I still like them. Like "Hail to the King," especially. One good memory I have about that is the 2 times we have gotten to see Avenged Sevenfold song live. There's something really cool when they're playing that song and the whole audience is doing the "Hail, Hail" at the same time. It's awesome. All right. Yeah. I love it. It's a good song. When it comes to the stage, I remember being a surprise release. I was at that same formal wear shop working, and one of my coworkers told me about it. And I said, "Oh, new Avenged Sevenfold. I'm going to have to check it out. I haven't heard anything on the radio." He said, "Don't bother. Don't even bother listening to it. It's terrible. It's horrible. They should have never released it," basically. I want to say one other person, maybe someone else from that job said that it was horrible. I never listened to it. You say it's horrible. We ran into friends of mine when we went to Sonic Temple, and they said it was horrible. But like, I avoided it. They didn't play any of the songs on the radio that I can recall. I didn't listen to it. I didn't bother. Avenged Sevenfold disappeared for quite a few years. They didn't do the wait 3 years, put out a new album. They were just, doing their thing. Then all of a sudden they came out with Nobody, that song, and I sent it to you and said, "Smigs, new Avenged Sevenfold." You turned on Nobody and sent me something back that says something along the lines of, the instrument sounded good, it was okay, but it seems like it's more slop that came from, the same vein as the stage. Meanwhile, I hadn't said my opinion on it. I was on like listening to 3 or 4 already by the time you sent that. I'm like, if this is what the stage sounds like, I have to go back and listen to it. And I did. And to this day, I have a question now. Maybe you can answer this question.
Is such a good point that I was honestly hoping you'd forget, because this one, I'll maneuver. Don't worry about me. But this is such an insanely good point for the reasons I think you're about to imply here.
I have a question for you, because I've talked about why I like the stage, things I dislike about Hail to the King. But I can understand an old school Avenged Sevenfold fan listening to Life is But a Dream and not enjoying it. Can you imagine hearing We Love You or something like that when the last song you heard was Backcountry? If you don't enjoy that, I understand. To this day, this very day, I don't get why you and other Avenged Sevenfold Avenged Sevenfold fans praise Hail to the King, but say that the stage is absolutely awful. To me, the stage sounds more like Avenged Sevenfold than Hail to the King does. It's got the crazy fast technical guitars. It's got awesome drum parts. His vocals, I think, still sound great. Like, I don't get it. It sounds more like Avenged than Hail to the King does to me. So please, could you just tell me why?
Tell me why? Because it's bad. Because it's just bad. But I'm on a podcast and I need to elaborate on that. But here, you know what it is a shame, because I'm sitting here crawling in my own skin that you brought that up, because you're right. When we both listened to Nobody, I lambasted that song. I thought it sucked. Which apparently I tend to do with most albums we review, as I learn as we continue this podcast.
It takes you a minute to.
It does.
Take it all in.
I did say exactly that. Hey, I used to get called Jesus Christ all the time. Nail me to the fucking cross on this one. I said it. But the more damning part is that I then turned around and Nobody is one of my favorite songs on the whole album, because at the core, and Now, hold on, this is going to be a little positive. I think you're right. I think the stage does sound more like Avenged Sevenfold than Hail to the King does. Now, here's what I'll say in return, or in addition to that, is I have two major issues with the stage beyond just saying that every song on it besides the stage, and I think God, I want to make sure I don't get it wrong, which, hey, if I have to look this up, maybe that's another knock on it. It's goddamn. It's goddamn. So the stage and goddamn, two songs I really like. What the stage does that I don't like is, I think, number one, and this isn't necessarily a gross fault, but it did hurt the album, is it was just simply ahead of its time. And I know that sounds dumb, because why could something be good in 5 years from now and it's not good right now? Well, if you kind of recall in my intro, I said what happens whenever we skip the checkpoints that Father Time has placed for us. We unravel. We don't, the code breaks because we're supposed to be somewhere, we're somewhere else. It doesn't know what to do. It's overwhelmed. And maybe you're supposed to get there eventually, but not yet. Avenged Sevenfold in the past decade has become a band willing to explore the spaces of modern media with things like AI assistance, futuristic exploration of your own subconscious with themes like existentialism, trying to make us question and understand better the threads that weave the fabric that is our reality, right? I think that actually is exactly what the stage does. Now, when I said that, did it sound kind of cringe? Did it sound really cringe? If you're 16 years old, probably.
No.
Because you're not 16 years old. In a way, as cool as I made that sound, it was supposed to be kind of cringe, because inherently these ideas are amazing and exactly how we pave the way forward into more originality in music and more knowledge as a species with exploring these ideas of your subconscious and all of that, right? But there's a way to do it. And literally having Neil deGrasse Tyson use lingo that 95% of people won't understand for 5 minutes straight at the end of this, I believe the last song of the album, just isn't it. It just isn't it.
Oh, I'm going to interject here for a second.
Go on.
I got some lyrics written down. Okay. However big our world is, in our hearts, our minds, and our outsized atlases, the universe is even bigger. There are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on the world's beaches. More stars in the universe than seconds of time that have passed since Earth formed. More stars than words and sounds ever uttered by all humans who ever lived. Are you telling me that audiences are too dumb to listen to that? Because I heard that and I'm like, these facts are true. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Oh, geez, sorry. Bored as hell listening to anything about the stage. No, that's actually, I mean, again, and that's what kills me, I think, so much about the stage. Is to answer your question, good lyrics. Just good lyrics. I can't and I won't even try to debate that one pick me in the middle of a sea of fecal matter was good. You found it. Good job. So, but that is almost kind of what I'm driving at here. Is what pisses me off so bad about this album is I did go into this originally thinking I'm just gonna bash this album the whole time. I'm gonna have no problems with it. It sucks, whatever. I didn't even think it had potential. And then obviously we do this, I learn every time that albums are usually better than I give them credit for after the first try, and this was a good example of that. But I still, at the end of the day, fell to the idea that this is run away my least favorite Avenged album. And I do think that my points of it being ahead of its time and that existentialism and all of that, I think that has a really good place, especially in Avenged Sevenfold's discography. You saw Life Is But a Dream. I think it's actually the same. Oh my God, I'm seeing the Matrix. I'm seeing the ones and zeros, and this isn't going to make sense to anybody but probably you. But you know the way that I complain about why Crash 2 is bad as opposed to Crash 3?
Yeah.
Even though they're relatively similar games.
Yeah.
I think the stage is Crash 2 and Life Is But a Dream is Crash 3. Now, of course, Crash 3, or in this example, Life Is But a Dream, had that extra time to learn from the things that the stage did or did not do or did poorly or compound on the things they did well. Obviously, the next thing is usually better because you have more knowledge to put towards it. But that doesn't mean that the thing that it's learning from is this pristine, again, goose egg hanging up in the museum, right? I think it had some foundational success with its theming and with some of the lyrics and with some of the ideas. And again, this was at that point where Avenged was really starting to get into like the Web3 shit and all the stuff that I don't really necessarily care for. But it made sense that they took this jump. I think, again, they just grossly, it was just ahead of what they needed it to be. And then, of course, they have that time and they polished it into what I think Life is But a Dream is. So
it's actually an interesting comparison because you tell me, when you were re-listening to this album, especially now that we've listened to Life is But a Dream so many times, could you see or hear in some of the songs how they were heading in that direction for Life is But a Dream? The strange like switch ups. There was like a brass section in Sunny Disposition and all that stuff. I would compare it to, I think the stage can be considered like Crash 1. Life is But a Dream can be considered Crash 2. And I think that if they met somewhere in the middle with the kooky, crazy, wild structure of Life is But a Dream, and then what you were calling the boring snooze fest of the stage, and meet somewhere in the middle between those, I think you could get
Hail the King. No, you actually get the self-titled album that I believe has like Afterlife and Little Piece of Heaven and all of that. I think that's actually the album you get. But yeah, but that's my point. Is I think actually if you it was a little bit ahead of its time, and I'll bring up another point that I implore you to give your thoughts on. I think to go along with the idea that it was just ahead of its time, I think it also overdoes it, which I've started to allude to some of these points already, right? But I think it just also simply overdoes it to the point where it's like, give me a balance, give me something that's not just Neil deGrasse Tyson-esque lyrics in this and that for the whole album. And the first time I listened to it, it was the fucking deluxe version, which, what did I send you, was like 2 hours.
It was long.
Holy shit. But have you ever discovered like a new hobby or activity or something, and you love it so much that you basically just like make it your whole personality and annoy everyone around you? It seems like Avenged know they have a solid foundation of an album here, but just decided to take their bag of groceries, dump all the ingredients into the pot at once instead of taking the time to prep the ingredients, measure them out properly, and all of that. And I think there's an over focus on concepts rather an actual structure in each song. Yes,
Right.
and any
You're talking
metal
to an Indian guy who cooks Indian food that has no measurements and about 35 ingredients every dish. I mean, the way you just described the stage is how I cook. Like come on, it's all making sense.
So Avenged Sevenfold is the same as Bloodywood ethnically.
Yes.
Yes. so that's a short right there. There's an over focus on concepts rather than the substance in each song. Yes, you can nitpick any rock album anywhere at any time and pick out lyrics or a specific guitar riff, solo, whatever, and it's going to be good. Pretty much every album ever will have that. But I think there's a lot of songs on the stage that feel too abstract or vague or honestly reek of a philosophy 101 student who thinks they're speaking on a plane we have not yet understood, but really it's just like you got high for the first time and tried to figure out how a battery works. That's what this album feels like to me. So my last point here, and then I want your thoughts, is I implore you to tell me your favorite lyrics, which if they're the ones you just read, then hey, maybe I'm just an asshole on this point. And since I thought of this. Oh my God, I'm a great writer. I implore you to tell me your favorite lyrics. And since you might have already have those prepared, tell me your second favorite lyrics, or they don't even have to be your favorite. Tell me lyrics that you remember, because for a band known for ear-busting hooks and choruses on songs like Hail to the King, Shepherd of Fire, and many others, they nerfed the explosion you've come to expect from them.
Okay, so I mean, the lyrics just for the stage, I think, are good. I like the way it describes, and I like the music video for it. So, you can do the who's in the crowd and who peers through the cage as we perform here upon the stage. We could go with no one likes cheap wine, right into that brass section.
Yeah.
I think Roman Sky is good. That's one that I kind of maybe I have a shot at learning some of it on guitar at some point down the road one day. But yeah, I mean, those are just a couple. Do you want me to go through some of my favorite lyrics from Hail to the King?
Please.
Okay. How about I'll do my favorite chorus. This means war. This means war. This means war. This means war. Or how about my second favorite? Planets collide. Planets.
Okay.
Collide.
I'm actually going to stop you there because the Planets ruins
Collide.
the album. Planets ruins the album. I am with that. I actually have Planets in Acid Rain on here as these don't count. These cannot count. I will not accept these as counting. So yes.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that in there while we were talking about lyrics, you know?
Okay, so hold on, because let me hit you with this, because brilliant job, the fucking liberal media pulling up the one thing. The one who runs the world, girls. The one time you could point at something like that. Let me. Had many storms, questioned my conviction, gave armies reason to rise. The hangman searching for bones he can borrow, while I escaped in the night. Sure, maybe those aren't the runaway best, but let's even go back to what I started with, and. Maybe I'm hitting a chord for the more cringe side of the Avenged Sevenfold fandom, the backcountry era where the heavy eyeliner and all of that. Sure. But I enjoyed these lyrics heavily, and I think you can find a meaning that suits you in them. So again, I say, I've been away, searching for a reason, another purpose to find. I've sailed the seas, fought my many demons. I've looked at gods in the skies. I've stood in hell where many had to suffer. I stared the devil in the eyes, walked many roads to witness ancient idols, and found the great gates of fire. Again, admittedly, it hits a few cringe notes in there. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. It's a little 16-year-old deep thoughts.
Yeah.
But the way I chose to frame it, and this is a way that I've chosen to frame other albums that we've listened to, I think specifically when we talked about Chester Bennington and how to put a feeling and a power behind your lyrics that only people who have felt that measure of pain before can do. I live a really happy life. What I'm about to say is not an attempt for fishing compliments or pity or anything. My life is in a great spot. I'm happy. The only thing that pisses me off is my recreational soccer team. And that, if that's the only problem I got in my life, that's an easy one. But what I chose this to mean is the constant struggle to figure out what you are made of at your lowest points. Now, we've had our number of discussions. We don't have to get deep into it or anything like that. But many people throughout their lives experience some level of depression. Now, that comes with a bunch of things: imposter syndrome, anxiety, self-doubt, all of those unfortunate things that come with it. And I have applied this to those moments in my life when I was at my lowest, when I wasn't sure if I'd be able to pull myself back up. And when they talk about searching for your reason, sailing the seas, you've tried every corner of the earth to figure this out. You've stared your devils, your demons in the eyes, and you said, fuck yourself. I'm going to get better today. So, lyrics like that kind of hit.
I can't argue with that. If they have like that personal meaning and everything, yeah, there's no argument against that. And there's nothing like that on the stage that I can think of personally off the top of my head. It's all more of those different themes like you already brought up: artificial intelligence and existentialism and all of that sort of good stuff that you can also get into. But yeah, there's nothing really that, for me anyway, personally, that would hit home like that. So I get it.
I've given my cons of the stage mostly, again, which is a shame, because while it still is my least favorite album, the reasons that I'm giving for it are very redeemable. They're very redeemable. Like we said, they actually did. They made good on it with Life Is But a Dream, and hopefully they continue to do so. So it's a little weird looking back and saying this album shit and has no impact on anything. No, it had a massive impact on what was their next album, and honestly, one of their best, if not overall, maybe the best self-titled album, City of Evil, whatever. Anyway, it's up there as being really good. Post screenshot of us doing an episode about this 6 months ago. Go watch that. But I've bashed it. I want to hear, if you haven't already brought all of them up, what drew you to this album other than the idea that me and so many others said we hated it and you needed to be a contrarian? And more fairly, other than the idea that simply this like whenever we described other things or saying that the stage sounded like Nobody, obviously that's one big reason to get there. But once you got here, once you got to the hotel, what made you stay?
Well, when it started off with the stage, and I know you've even admitted that you like that song. It's just a good song. But I don't know. I think the instrumentals on this album are on like another level. Like Avenged Sevenfold has always been super talented. When they made City of Evil, they were what, like 22, something like that, 23. Yeah. They were super young, and they were making stuff that was pretty complex. You know, you don't see a whole lot of people. You probably do, whatever. But point being, they're a talented group of people. Yeah, I think all of them are. One thing that I noticed about Hail to the King, and I'm not saying this to bash anything. I'll get to this point later. The only thing that shines in Hail to the King, in my opinion, are the guitars. To me, every single person, both guitarists, vocals, bass, drums, they shine on almost every single song. I also I know you said that it sounds similar, but I think it has enough variety in it that it keeps my attention through it. So when you hear like Angels, and it's a slower one, and then it can also build, but it goes into Simulation back down to like Roman Sky and all that, I think it's got enough variety in it where it doesn't all sound the same to me. But yeah, I don't know. I think Avenged Sevenfold, their guitars, especially those like synchronized guitars and just how fast they can be and everything. This album just, to me, has everything that I liked before about Avenged Sevenfold just sprinkled in every single song.
I am convinced that Zacky Vengeance and Sinister Gates have man, how to say this? They fuck, but as a business operation, not obviously they love each other like brothers and all that. They've been in this band, they've been friends for however long, but I think they fuck solely to get that kind of connection that you do see they have on stage, like literally in person on stage, and I guess on the stage. Because the way I forever said that I think Sinister Gates is one of the top 10 guitarists ever, period, and I think he's top 5 currently still going. But those two together, Zacky Vengeance does elevate that, and I do think that a lot of their work does help Hail to the King a lot. So to meander on over to that side of the fence, what I think is such a good part of Hail to the King is honestly their consistency, which is kind of silly because this is usually something that I bash by saying too many songs sound the same, change it up a little bit, this, that, the other. But when you pair it with the theming of the album, it stays... It's not the new grounds of what you expect Avenged Sevenfold to be. Again, the stage, Life Is But a Dream, hell, even back to the self-titled album, songs like A Little Piece of Heaven, all of that. They are meant to test the Crossroads, the Streets. I can go on and on about songs that do this. Girl I Know, 4 a.m. This stays true to old school metal with themes of war, the breaking of body, mind, and soul in the name of primal mental and physical progression, fighting the system and other organized groups that you wish to cast into the box of their own judgment. And when you put that with the consistency, does the theming alone of Hail to the King match up to the stage? No, of course it doesn't. I'm not going to sit here on my throne of lies and tell you that. But when you pair that with their consistency, I once heard another artist in one of their songs say something to the, if I'm going to butcher the lyrics, but I'm not going mainstream. You're watching the mainstream go me. And I always thought that was one of the cringiest things I have ever heard in my entire life. But because it's also bullshit. That's just another way of saying you're going mainstream. Whatever. Beyond that, when we're talking about a band that has a history of cringe and, like it or not, has used it to their advantage, City of Evil, again, is just one of their best selling out. It's why most people know who Avenged Sevenfold is in the first place, is City of Evil.
Yeah.
And that's when they were at their cringiest. So why not, for one of the cringier bands, at least in their past, use it as one of the biggest reasons that the album works? As a small example, Sinister Gates says, he says this of the intro of the album's namesake song, Hail to the King. I've been doing a lot of gypsy jazz guitar work, so I incorporated that into the beginning since you don't hear that much in this genre. So, to play right into your point, yes, Sinister Gates does help save this album a lot, but he does help save this album a lot. And it is maybe a bit more bland than what you're used to hearing, but they still are willing to throw different things like that in here. And I think what the most important point I'm about to make here is, not my last one, but I think the most important, is they draw inspiration from some heavily trodden ground and transform themselves into a slower, heavier, old school version of what I believe makes them stand out in the first place, which is their raw technical ability, something we've both said. But Shadows doesn't have the most soothing voice ever, but it's distinguishable from other metal artists. Gates is a top 10 guitarist in the world. While the Rev is now gone, he set the groundwork for how Avenged drum work is meant to go. And
let's put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So let me ask, if you like bands, if you like these bands, because there's clear inspiration from the titans of time, more important than Kronos himself, by the names of Metallica, Black Sabbath, Guns N' Roses. It makes this album deliberate in its intention. If those artists are top of the food chain, how are we to not be impressed by an homage to them?
An homage is fine. Okay? The old samurai movies that George Lucas used to watch that inspired Star Wars is great if you want to take your inspiration and build upon it. But you don't want to have someone in the year 2026 going to film school, trying to do something new, watching a movie from the 1920s, and then creating a movie like it's the 1920s. You want to inspire, not go backwards. And Avenged Sevenfold went backwards with their talent. Backwards. I want you to. I have a question. Okay.
Okay.
When we went and saw Avenged Sevenfold, did they only play songs from Life Is But a Dream?
No.
No, they played their older stuff too.
Yeah.
So for this album, why, oh why, even if they were influenced by their, or if they were drawing inspirations from their influences they grew up with, like Metallica and Guns N' Roses, why did they do this with their drums? Their drumming was like a core part of what made them Avenged Sevenfold, because we've talked about how awesome the Rev is. Why did they bring in someone like Aaron, who we know can play what the Rev played, or at least, you know, come close to it? Because there's live video of Aaron playing. One of the few times they played Beats in the Harlot live was when Aaron was behind the kit and he held his own back there. He was able to play Backcountry and Nightmare and all of the other old songs. Why do they have him dumb down his drumming so much on this album? And before you say because of their influences and this and that, are we going to pretend that Keith Moon from The Who didn't exist with his insane drumming and technical abilities? Are we going to pretend that John Bonham from Led Zeppelin wasn't a thing? Or Mitch Mitchell? Or Black Sabbath drummer? Are we going to pretend that every old school drummer sounded like the guy from AC/DC? I'm sorry, no disrespect, because AC/DC, legendary band, not known for their drummers.
Yeah, I know.
Okay?
No.
Why did they do this? The guy that they brought on can obviously play the older, more technical stuff. Even if you're paying tribute to the bands that influenced you, why dumb down your drums that much? That bothers me so much. And I've seen arguments online. It fits with what they were going for. It fits with the blah, blah, blah. So if you just stepped it up a little bit, I'm not saying you had to do Backcountry level, City of Evil level drumming, but something, you know? He has some cool parts on there. I think his drums sound really cool. And Shepherd of Fire, I think the intro on those drums, like the sound that they actually get from that, it's really cool. Well, come on. Like, it's, you can't tell me it's not a key factor of Avenged Sevenfold to have some really cool drums in your songs, because once they fired Aaron and brought on Brooks, has their drumming not gone back to just insanity? What was the point?
So my first rebuttal was it wasn't the intention. But you kind of don't like that answer, and that's reasonable. So I think it's actually a very valid point, because I think as much as I did say right in that bullet point that the rev is gone, but he did lay the groundwork, I think you're right. I think if there's an instrumental that is lacking more than it should be, it certainly is the drums. As a matter of fact, I'm listening to Acid Rain right now, which I don't think is a good song. But beyond that, part of the reason it's not a good song is because I'm just hearing the most basic dum, 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 drumming from UJ, whatever his name is. But if you have LeBron James, if you have Tom Brady, if you have Lionel Messi, if you have Ichiro, right? The legends of their respective sports, games, whatever. The next guy comes in, are you going to be like, we just lost Max Scherzer as our starting pitcher. Go pitch exactly how Max Scherzer pitches. No. Yes, you're going to say Max Scherzer got all these wins and he was successful because of this certain mechanic or this certain technique. See if you have ways to morph your own talents into that, because that's one, just a really good sound, and two, a sound that is associated with Avenged Sevenfold. I've said forever and a day, the Rev was the creative force. I was blind to that for most of my fandom, and they're all super talented. All of them. They have writing and lyrical contributions on all their albums, but the Rev was the guy. But if you're Aaron, are you going to step in and be the Rev? No. Could he have done better? Could he have done better, or should the band have allowed him to do better? Yes, that's valid. I don't have much of an argument for that, because I think if there's an instrumental weakness, it is the drums. It is the drums.
They replaced an amazing drummer with a great drummer, though. If Max Scherzer's not your starting pitcher anymore, are you going to go send a guy up there to throw 50-mile-an-hour meatballs down the middle every time? No, you're going to get another great pitcher. That's what they did. They brought in another great drummer, but told him to throw right down Broadway, 50 miles an hour every time.
So I think, even though I think this merit doesn't stand on its own, as you have already debunked yourself, it's not necessarily something people want to hear. But I think it simply was just what they intended. And here's why I think that's acceptable. Because this album was never meant to establish their place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but rather it was a payment of their dues and paying respects to all those that paved the way before. Now, after roughly 15 years as a band with groundbreaking hits like Beast and the Harlot, albums that tested the waters heavily like Nightmare, losing their biggest creative force in the Rev, it was time to show the world that they understand the core and essence of the genre that allowed them a home for so long, and inadvertently showed you how heavily they've been pushing the bounds the whole time. If you don't have Hail to the King, can you understand why Life is But a Dream is so good or so much better? Now, that sounds like an anti-point to what I'm saying, because I'm using my album to prop up a different one. But But that's what I'm saying is, does it fit the mold of Avenged Sevenfold? No. Was it meant to? No. Is that alone an acceptable reason for an album to fall short? No. But I don't think it does. The drumming, inexcusable. I think you're right. I think even though I tried to finagle my way back into that, I think if you bring in a guy that is super talented, even on just one song, let him rip, right? Like, there's no reason Shepherd of Fire couldn't have went, and that's one of my favorites, if not my favorite song on the album. There's no reason Shepherd of Fire couldn't have went even harder than it did. There's no reason. Or even Hail to the King. I get that one. That's the namesake of the album. Maybe you don't push the boundaries too much. But, so are we to punish a band for putting out one of the best generic albums of all time, or are we to thank them for showing us the range they've brought to the music that we've grown to love so much in their later albums? For you, The Stage; for me, Life Is But a Dream.
I'll quote Matt Shadows from about 3 months ago, and you decide. All right. He said this was a more reactionary album after feeling that the band didn't have any mainstream smash hits. I'm going to pause right there, because do you think that's true? Dude, brother.
No, but yes, because what actually shocked me, not to derail real quick, was you were talking earlier, and to be fair, I don't listen to a ton of just the radio, but the amount of Avenged songs that I have heard on the radio, and one of them is in my ear right now because an album switched and I'm listening to Welcome to the Family. Welcome to the Family I've heard. I'm sure Backcountry was all over it because that was like their first real big hit. But I haven't heard a ton of Avenged songs on the radio. I know they're in a relevancy. Like, they're not an underground band, obviously, but I could see both sides of the argument to saying that they don't have enough mainstream hits to it.
I mean, plenty of us in middle school knew about City of Evil. It's not like Unholy Confessions is an underground song, you know? I heard Nightmare, Welcome to the Family, and So Far Away on the radio a lot. So I don't know what he's talking about. I think they were pretty successful beforehand, but he says none of our songs could be played anywhere, like in a bar. Like, we have nothing that lives up to AC/DC or Metallica's Black Album or all those records that we love. All our stuff's a little too complex. So they're basically saying, we don't have an album for the boomers. We don't have it for the boomers sitting in their bars to listen to. So we started really cutting close, obviously, to wearing our influences very much on our sleeves in this short, sort of dumbed down version of rock music. That's how he described it, dumbed down. And that's not a shot on those bands because they do it brilliantly. They do it better than us, but we wanted to try our hand at doing something like that. It's very unnatural for us. It's not what we do. Unfortunately, Hail to the King worked. It's our biggest song, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a funny thing that that's the song that is almost at 1 billion views, and it's the song that people hear first. I don't know if that's more of a commentary on us or a commentary on the typical rock listener, but yeah, Hail to the King is one of those things where it's just a funny little experiment.
Okay. So my point has been...
We dumbed down our music for an experiment to appeal to boomers sitting in bars, and it became our most popular.
And it became our most popular, Ryan, which brings me back to the point, which brings me back to the question, though. Are we to punish a band for putting out one of the best generic albums ever and to show the range and the understanding of the genre? I would rather have an album like this where maybe it falls short on some of the technical abilities, the drums. I think Sinister Gates does a really good job on this album. I don't think it's Sinister Gates' best work. Obviously, they didn't let him kind of freak out the way he usually does, but I think he was good. I think Matt Shadows, his voice wasn't shot to hell yet on that album, so that's always a bonus. It was on the stage, but beyond that, I would rather have an album like Hail to the King that shows me that they understand what metal music is, and again, inadvertently show us why albums like City of Evil back then was so good and Life Is But a Dream on the other end is now so good, rather than have an album like The Stage where you are pushing those boundaries, which, to be fair, is something that I preach a lot on this podcast. At least try it. But what I don't like is how... just again, it was overwhelming. They just again to put it this way to the Indian man again. It just feels like they dumped all the ingredients in the pot, didn't measure shit out, didn't really try to make it make any sense. They're just like, we have this really cool idea, and we're just gonna get in the garage and freestyle every song and just ship out whatever comes out the first time. It just felt sloppy.
I really like the band Rush. And if anyone out here has not listened to Rush, I'm sure anyone listening to this podcast has. But exactly. The Professor. You have Geddy Lee up there singing, playing bass, and keyboards at the same time. Alex Lifeson, iconic guitarist. They're known for their complexity and odd time signatures and change-ups and this and that. It would be like asking Rush to dumb down their music and then it being successful. And it's like, can you not go back to that the tricky stuff that you always make before? Like, no, like I don't get it. They came back swinging for the fences with The Stage. and everyone's like, "Oh, this sucks." What? I just don't
Would
understand
you
it.
would you rather have your guy hit 10 for 10 from the free throw line, 9 for 10, 8 for 10, whatever the good percentage is. Let's just say 8 for 10 from the free throw line. Or would you rather your guy hit 2 for 10 from half court? I'm sure you could assign which album I'm assigning to which of those activities. Because I'd rather have the guy getting me 8 points. 8 points, 8 points, 8
But
points, baby.
Hail to the King has 3 points. Okay, Hail to the King, Shepherd of Fire, and Heretic, however you say
Heretic,
it.
yeah.
Those are the three. It only makes 3 out of 10. You know, this means war is just sad but
Oh,
true.
wow. There's literally
I
10
want you to
songs on this
start.
album.
I just want you to start. This means war. But when the verse start going, "Hey, I'm your life. I'm the one who takes." It'll fit. Trust me, it'll fit.
Because it's supposed to.
What?
I think
Those are the 3 songs. Those are the 3 good ones. I'm just gonna say it. Doing it's cringe.
Okay, so
Like what someone's boomer uncle would like while he's wearing his socks and sandals would listen to at the barbecue. Like, now this is real metal right here. This is their good stuff.
oh, jeez, yeah, this is what they're playing at the alternative halftime show.
Actually, that same former workplace that I worked at, me and another coworker were talking about a band, Born of Osiris, one of the metal bands. And when the owner came over, he's like, "Oh, who are you guys talking about?" We said, "Born of Osiris. It's a metal band." He goes, "Are they heavier than Iron Maiden?" I love the guy, okay, but Iron Maiden being your heaviest band,
tough.
that person loves doing time. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's actually crazy because I agree with that sentiment. I just am looking at it as a good thing and you're looking at it as a bad thing. So I don't really have like an argument to that. I just think that that's okay.
I'm also kind of faking outrage and playing it up for the show, but
yeah, obviously.
To this, I liked it. I like Hail to the King for what it is. It's good. I listened to it at work several times. So,
and admittedly, I have to similarly say the same about the stage. So here's what I think we can do, because I think we've said all that's to be said. Get loud vocal in the comments. Tell us which one, if even the band, if you like any of it, or just comment, because that would be cool still at this point in our career. But 2 things. One, I'm gonna have us give what we think. Like, for example, what I'm about to do is Hail to the King has 10 songs. I'm basically looking at these right now, and I'm gonna say how many of these I think are good, how many I think they just kind of missed on. Not gonna really get too far into it, and then I'll give the score of what I think the album was. So, Hail to the King has 10 songs. Just let's go down the list. Shepherd of Fire, I think, is really good. Again, it could have probably been better with some better drum work, but I think it's really good. Hail to the King, generic, sure, but it's the namesake of the album, so run it. Doing Time, I actually really like that song.
I do too. I like it. That's what I mean. I'm playing it up a little bit, but I like it.
I think the voice Shadows uses for that is clearly him getting to the era where his voice is blown out, but it works for that. It's like you're zooming down like an Arizona highway listening to this song with the convertible and shit. This Means War, I also think is good. I do see what you're saying about Sad But True.
I was bashing it, but again, I don't mind it.
Requiem, take it or leave it. I'll put that one on the bad side. Crimson Day. Hold on, I'm pretty sure I said this was bad, but let me make sure I'm thinking of the right song. Oh no, Crimson Day is fine. It's a slower song, but it's a switch up. I can appreciate that. Heretic is actually maybe my favorite song on the album.
That's a great one. That's like a surprise one on this album.
Yeah. Coming Home, I can see that people don't like that one. I do. And then Planets and Acid Rain, and especially if I'm going to dig into the point of how I think albums don't know how to end, that's the last 2. That's not just the last song, that's the last 2 songs, and they both suck. They both just suck. Yeah, I got nothing to defend either one of those, especially Acid Rain. I think that song could be removed from their discography, and I wouldn't even notice. So I gave 7 out of the 10 songs being good, listenable, if nothing else. I think what I'm going to give the album as a whole, though, I'm stuck between a 6 and a 6.5. I give it a 6.5 because I think that's reasonable. If you have 7 of 10 good songs, it feels reasonable to give a 6.5. So that's what I'll land on.
Yeah, I like 6 out of the 10 songs on there. That's what I'm going to say with the 6 out of 10. But remember our rating scale, and back, I don't know, a couple years ago, I probably would have given this album like a 3. So re-listening to it again, I like it. I like it for what it is. It's
Yeah,
good.
on the normies rating scale, my 6.5 is like a
Like an
5
8.
4. Well, yeah, yeah, no, sorry, yeah. So I'm saying that this is somewhere right in the middle of their discography and somewhere right in the middle of metal as a whole, above
Oh,
the average line. So yeah, I guess actually you're right, because I think if people would normally say a 7 out of 10 is just normally good, then I would probably have to give it a 7.5 or an 8. So yeah, I guess my 6.5 would equate to a normie's 7.5, 8, something like that.
yeah. I'll stick with
As for the
6.
stage, though,
Yeah.
hit me with it.
The Stage. It's a great song. Stage is awesome. So I'm going to give that one. Paradigm, I think it's good. It's not like one of my all-time favorite Avenged Sevenfold songs, but I do like it a lot on this album.
Mm.
Sunny Disposition is one of my favorites. I think this song's great. It switches it up enough and it's kind of funky, so I'm into it. Goddamn, I actually it's fine. I think this kind of gets into a little bit of the you're talking about 16-year-old cringe lyrics. I think this kind of teeters on it a little bit, but I like it.
It's my
Creating
favorite
God.
song on the album, ahead of the stage.
Oh, really? I still like it, but yeah, it's just some of the lines in there are a little goofy.
Yeah, no,
Same thing
I see
with
what you mean. I
Creating
see what you
God.
mean.
They were talking about AI and all this stuff. I mean, this album came out what 10 years ago, so I'm not saying like, oh, they're so far ahead of their time, but yeah, it's kind of interesting to see them comparing. Kind of looking ahead to where AI was going, but it's fine. It's okay. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite. Accident Angels is really good. Same thing with Simulation, even though that one's also really cringy at the end because isn't maybe I'm getting this mixed up. Hold on, I might need to look at the lyrics, but Simulation I think is at the end where they're talking about it's like a spoken word part. They're like, oh, nurse patient 666 7 8 9 10 needs to be whatever. That part, if that's the right song I'm
Yep,
thinking of.
yep, yep.
Last part's
Nurse
cringe.
patient 666158 needs to be sedated. We need
Yeah.
500 cc's of M. Yeah, man. Yeah, you're telling me about some cringe shit.
Higher. I don't remember it. If that tells you anything. I don't remember how the song Higher goes. And I listen to this album a lot. The last three, Roman Sky, Fermi Paradox, and Exist, all great, all bangers. I think they're awesome. So I would take ones that I actually really, really like and would like add to a playlist. Probably like 7 out of the 11. Ones that I think are good, probably 9 out of the 11. And then, yeah, a couple I can do away with. Overall, this album is I'll say 7. Which one are you jamming to right now?
Exist. Just not the Neil
Oh,
deGrasse Tyson part.
so awesome.
I thought I remembered liking this song, and obviously I listened to it 100 times than last week, but I thought I remembered liking that song a little bit when it came out. I actually think I remember liking the song and then not liking it because of the Neil deGrasse Tyson part, which is crazy because I was at a point in my life then and still now where I actually kind of like when bands put in like those talking sections, especially for reasons like that at the end. I just remember when the album first came out, which again is some 10 years ago, so I was 22 instead of 32.
Yeah.
I was just like, I not only do I just not understand what Blood is waffling about, but I don't think I like it either. So, but maybe 10 years different. Maybe 10 years later, I feel a little differently about it. But the song itself, minus the speech at the end, is really good. I think 5 out of 10, which again for our rating system is the exact bar. I'd maybe bump it to a 4.5, but I could also maybe bump it to a 5.5. So 5.0, I think conceptually a really good album. I think executionally could have certainly been way better, but they took the chances. They again laid the groundwork for what eventually became Life Is But a Dream, and that I would have to really think about it. But that is. It's in my top 3 Avenged albums, if without thinking hard at all. Probably City of Evil, Nightmare in that, or maybe the self-titled Nightmare in that. I don't know, but either way, but it laid good groundwork. I just think for the album itself, it, for the same reasons you're like, why is being the best generic album a good thing? Why is being the shittiest progressive album a good thing? Is kind of how I feel about it. So, but again, that is just one man's take. So I stick with a 5 out of 10, I think.
Yep. So it sounds like you and I listened to these albums, getting ready to argue, and even though we played it up a little today, both of us came out liking our most hated Avenged Sevenfold album more than like 2 weeks ago. So I consider this a win. Yeah. Hail to the King. It's good for what it is. One last point, and this will be extremely quick. Looking at the two album covers, I love the classic skull bat wings for Hail to the King, but I think the stage album cover just goes really hard. I love that space with Earth in the middle of its eye. I think it's awesome. I think it's their best one yet.
I'm a sucker for some galactic shit too, so I am inclined to agree with that. I think personally I like it more the art style, but I think if we were to put these two next to each other and be like, these are both Avenged Sevenfold album covers for this reason, they just both make sense to be what they are. So I don't think one is bad, but I would agree that the stage album cover is probably just better.
Yeah, I like them both, and they actually took it from a picture of a real area in space that looks like a skull already, and they just kind of changed it up a bit to make it look like a death bat. So.
I thought it was AI. I'll be honest. After, it's the only thing I don't like about Event is I think they ride the line pretty hard. But again, maybe that's my own subconscious bias because I like the band. But the amount of AI they like to play around with, I don't love. But I think they haven't crossed the line yet. So here's to hoping that they don't.
Agreed.
But here is hoping that you guys cross the picket line and come back to us. We've been gone for a little bit, and that's mostly my fault, but it doesn't matter because we're back and we have a game plan, which is what every streamer and content creator says, and then you don't hear about it ever again. But we have a game plan because we want to make this right. So stuff like this with the new format, this, you know, the next episode will be a completely normal episode again, just one album, two guys discussing whatever, but throwing shit like this in, all of that. So hopefully, or anybody watching, you enjoyed it. It would mean a lot if you could just throw comments, which album you liked better, if you even like Avenged Sevenfold, if you think Ryan should grow his hair out and grow his beard back out so he can look like Buddy from Bloodywood. Any comments, any suggestions, anything, because it's helpful.
Put on my Twitch channel out there, the long hair and beard combo. So
there you go.
Twitch.tv/Ryan Mohan. Go check it out. You'll see me stream twice a year.
Extra Life in 10 months. See you guys there. Yep. But yeah, so any comments, likes, engagement, tell us what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see, what you don't want to see. And yeah, so what we're going to end up doing next week is a great question because we tried to prep a lot for this episode and didn't even really finish doing all of that. So we for damn sure didn't pick what we're doing next. So it'll be a surprise to you guys. It'll be a surprise to us in the meantime, in between times. Thank you all for rocking with us. This has been Rock Rants, Avenged Sevenfold, the stage versus Hail to the King. My name is Smiggy, joined always by
Ryan.
Love you all. See you next time.
Bye.